Welcome back, everyone. As you all know by now, Salman Rushdie was recently stabbed in a brutal attack that all civilized human beings would regard as barbaric. He was, of course, the author of the Satanic Verses novel in 1988, which has been bringing out the best of people from a certain religion ever since. At the time of recording this video, his exact medical condition is unknown, but it looks like the attack will have some long-term effects. Of course, we hope for a full recovery. In case any viewers are not aware, the so-called Satanic Verses incident was when the Prophet of Islam, ostensibly known for reciting verses given to him from Allah, was tricked into reciting verses by Satan. Oops. It's similar to when Muhammad was bewitched by a Jew and a hairbrush. Remember, he thought he was doing something that he wasn't? Well, in the Satanic Verses incident, Muhammad thought he was reciting verses from God, but then he found out later he wasn't doing what he thought he was at all. So how did the early Muslims regard the Satanic Verses story? That's a good place to start. Shahab Ahmed's study concluded that the Satanic Verses incident constituted a standard element in the historical memory of the Muslim community in the first 150 years of Islam, and was recorded by almost all prominent scholars working in the fields of tafsir and Sirah Maghazi. Additionally, the universal rejection of the Satanic Verses incident by Islamic orthodoxy today represents the rejection of something that was held to be true by early Muslims. This brings us to our first of 5 observations about the Satanic Verses. Number 1 is the paradox of Muslim apologetics. Unfortunately, the easiest way to make Muslims angry is by reading their own sources to them. This never ceases to amaze me. You can't get better criticism of Muhammad than in what Muslim sources explicitly say. But reading these things out loud frequently results in outrage about criticizing or blaspheming Muhammad. And when it comes to the Satanic Verses, no critic of Islam made them up. The accounts that pass this story on, and there are dozens of them, are in Muslim sources. We just read them. Do you understand that, Muslims? Let's see. If you get mad at someone for reading the sources of your own religion, the problem is with A, the person reading the sources, or B, the religion itself. B is the correct answer. I hope I didn't lose anyone with that exceptionally difficult pop quiz. Second, Muhammad committed shirk. Wait a second. Slow down before you get angry. What did we just establish? That if you get mad at someone who's reading the sources of your religion to you, the problem is not that person. The problem is your religion. Okay? So let's continue. The Prophet's own characterization of his error is remarkable for its choice of words. I have obeyed Satan and spoken his words, and he has become a partner in God's matter with me. The use of the verb sharika immediately associates the Prophet's error with the concept of shirk, the cardinal sin of sharing partners with God. Shirk, which Muhammad's sin is associated with, according to the words spoken by Muhammad recorded in Muslim sources, is a sin so major that according to the Quran, it will not be forgiven. Surely God does not forgive anything being associated with him. Let's hear the words of the Prophet of Islam one more time. I have obeyed Satan and spoken his words, and he has become a partner in God's matter with me. So Muhammad committed shirk, according to his words, given to us in Muslim sources. That would seem to cause some difficulty with the Islamic doctrine of the infallibility of the prophets, given their biggest prophet committed the biggest sin. Dr. Ayman Ibrahim catches both of these nuances here. If true, the Satanic Verses incident refutes the claims of Muhammad's infallibility and immunity from sin, or worse, it presents him as a non-monotheist, at least in a temporary concession, even after he encountered Allah and received the Quran. Observation number 3. Muhammad couldn't tell the difference between Allah and Satan. We hear about the miraculous Quran all the time. It's a recitation of Allah's miraculously preserved miraculous words. Its miraculousness is self-attesting. That's how miraculous it is. Miracle on top of miracle. Miraculous miracle on top of miraculous miracle. Quran miracle, miraculous, miracle Quran, Quran, miraculous, miracle. One question about all this. If the Quran is so miraculous, why couldn't Muhammad tell the difference between the words of Allah and the words of Satan? Our fourth observation is closely related. Muhammad's audience couldn't tell the difference between Allah and Satan. According to some traditions, Gabriel had to tell Muhammad that he messed up. Wait a second. I wonder if Muhammad could tell the difference between Gabriel and Satan, since he couldn't tell the difference between Allah and Satan. Anyway, shouldn't the people hearing Muhammad have known something was different? Another proof of the miraculous Quran that Muslims give us is the astounded reaction of Muhammad's audience. But that audience rejoiced at the satanic verses. So why should their opinion of this miraculous recitation matter to us? Number 5, redaction in the Quran. Surah 53 is primarily associated with the satanic verses incident, and it just so happens that this is one surah that has lots of problems that has captured the attention of many scholars. A recent example is from Tommaso Dizze. His thorough analysis can only be summarized here. After engaging with prior scholars on Surah 53, Dizze states, the polemical arguments in Surah 53 are in fact lucid from his perspective, again referring to some opinions that he has engaged with of prior scholarship. This lucidity, however, does not explain why the author of this thematically coherent polemic manifests stylistic incoherence between the different components of the surah, specifically between the verses in which the names of the three deities are mentioned and the verses in which their apparent qualification as female angels occur. In sum, the coherence of the polemic is not sufficient to establish the original unity of the oracular and prosaic sections. Alternatively, the thematic coherence of the pericope can be explained on the assumption that a redactor intervened and crafted this passage to reflect his point of view, namely that the three pagan deities, these would be the ones who were involved in the satanic verses, were part of a cult of angel worship. To this end, the redactor added the prosaic section, which represents an exegetical gloss and comments on the three deities mentioned in the preceding verses. For Professor Dizze, later redaction is what explains the incongruencies, both in the Quran's style as well as what we know of the historical background of Surah 53, 19 through 32. So a close look at these satanic verses takes us back to Surah 53, which takes us into the topic of later redaction in the Quran. But we better not talk about that too much, because we might make some people mad. So in this video, we saw the paradox of Muslims being angered by their own sources. Muhammad committed shirk. We saw the Quran is apparently not so miraculous, according to Muhammad or his audience. And finally, based on style and historical context, a good case can be made for later redaction in the Quran, and not just in Surah 53 by any means. And I refer interested viewers to Tommaso Dizze's article. There's a lot more I could have discussed, but if you have anything to add about the satanic verses, drop it in the comments section. Be sure to use creative writing to avoid YouTube's filters. If enough good comments come through, you might see them in a future video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.